So I'm not the best comedian, I'm not the best musician, but what I've done is I've fused those two together. So now it makes me this skill stacked, unique entity. It becomes like a go-to thing for anyone who wants that specific niche.
What's up? This is Will Ennis, and you're listening to Create Up. It's a podcast where I talk to different artists about their creativity. I'll be speaking with musicians, directors, comedians, writers, and more. They've all had great success, and they are graciously sharing their stories with us. So let's get into it. Welcome to episode 6 of Create Up with Will Ennis. Today my guest is Rory Gardiner. Rory is a man of many talents. He's a stand-up comedian, content creator, public speaker, accomplished musician. In fact, let's start with that. We recorded this interview in early December, and at that time, a song he'd written had just hit number 2 on the country music indie charts. Now, as I'm recording this introduction to the episode, a couple weeks later, his song is no longer number 2. It's number 1, so huge congratulations to him for that. It's called Not Over You. It's a duet between Natalie Jean and Rory Gardiner. Find it on all streaming platforms now. We're going to talk about all that in this podcast, as well as the art of stand-up comedy, the importance of skill stacking, and finding your own niche as an artist. We also talk about the time his house was destroyed by a tornado, not something you'd typically expect to happen, especially if you live in Ottawa, Canada, like he does. Okay, so that's just a sample of what's to come. Stay tuned for my chat with Rory Gardiner. Rory Gardiner, man, thanks for being here, dude.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to congratulate you. The last thing I saw on social media was you were on a Billboard, I believe in Nashville. You have the number 2 single right now on Nash Vegas radio, the collaboration with Natalie Jean, Not Over You. Yeah,
that's interesting. It's causing a lot of collisions on that freeway in Nashville. So although the single is doing well, there's a lot of fatalities as they see the billboard on the way by. It's very distracting. Well,
yeah, well, you warned us about your big head, but on the billboard, it's really something to behold.
Yeah, literally.
How did that come to be? That's pretty amazing. I listened to it on Spotify. It's super catchy. It's got hundreds of thousands of streams in the short period it's been out. What's the story behind that? How'd that come to be?
I wrote this song 5 years ago, and it was just kind of sitting on the shelf collecting dust. And this artist out of somewhere in the States said, "Hey, I love that song. It's a duet-y kind of song." And she said, "Let's cut that." So we produced this song called Not Over You, and it just, I don't know, it took off. And now it's number 2 on indie charts in Nashville. And it's the world has changed, Will. As we age, I don't know what anything means anymore. So it has hundreds of thousands of Spotify spins. This could be the equivalent of 2 CD sales for all I know. Yeah, but it sounds pretty cool. So let's just roll with it.
No, dude, I think it's amazing because there's so much content out there. So when you see a lot of people behind a single, that is a lot of people. So it's like, it is definitely catching people's eyes and attention and stuff like that. But you're saying, so it was just on your shelf. Like, how did Natalie come to hear it? Were you pitching it to people at a certain point and then they got back to you, or?
Well, Natalie and I have known each other for a few years. We go to the Grammys every year, and there's like an event, and like all these indie artists kind of hook up every year just to do the networking thing and hobnob and stuff like that. And it's great. So we've known each other through that over the years, and we've always talked about doing something together. And here it is.
Well, that's awesome. People should definitely check it out. And I noticed you wrote in one of your posts, you were talking about releasing music. And I really appreciated, just to quote you really quick, you said, "Don't wait 10 plus years to release what you perceive as the perfect project. There's no such thing. Perfectionism is just another way to hide. Do it scared, do it messy, and bring us along for the ride." When did you adopt this philosophy with like creating music and everything you're doing right now?
I think the feedback is important as far as growth goes, right? So it came prevalent to me in comedy. So I've been doing music for 20 years, but I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 7 years. And I can think something's hilarious when I am writing jokes down in my bedroom. But then when you say it in front of an audience on a stage, they don't think it's as funny as you do. So that's feedback from the world saying, maybe you should write a better joke. And, 6 minutes of new material is now dumbed down to 30 seconds I can add to my future Netflix special, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of apply the same thing to music. Now, I have eight records hanging on the wall right now, and not all of them are perfect, but had I not tried to create each of those records, I wouldn't have had a little nugget of gold for each of them.
Yeah, totally.
And I think it progressively gets better, and I evolve over the course of each album just because of my experience, the development of how I write and everything else. And each album I release, I do get feedback from the audience, such as "this sucks" or "this is awesome." And based on that feedback, I kind of navigate where the next one's going.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like comedy, stand-up comedy is that genre that the data is so clear. It's so cut and dry. Like with music, you're not getting like moment-to-moment response from music to the degree you do with comedy. Silence, laughter, hissing, boos. 7 years is a very long time to be doing comedy, but I know that it's sort of like a lifelong journey. Like, some people say you're not a comic till you've done 20 years or 30 years, but 6 or 7 years is a very long time. And I was wondering, like, do you have any like hell gig stories from doing stand-up?
Tons.
I love a good hell gig story.
It's not necessary. So club gigs are always pretty good. If you're half decent, if you're kind of funny, you can usually get your way through a club gig. But there's these indie rooms, these satellite rooms where you go try out your material before you get to the clubs. Clubs are usually Thursday to Sunday kind of thing, whereas these other rooms are like Monday to Wednesday. And that's where you try your stuff out. Most of the time it's in front of other comics and no audience. And so it's bound to fill. There's a lot of crickets there, but if you basically get through those nights and get a giggle out of other comics, then you probably have something in front of a regular audience who doesn't need therapy.
I know what you mean. Like I don't do stand up now, but I've dabbled over the years with it, and I know what you mean by those satellite rooms, and you're doing stuff in front of other comedians. And I was always wondering, that seems like a different feedback. Performing for comedians, when you're a comedian, it almost feels like you're a waiter serving to other waiters. Like, do you ever find there's a real difference between what comedians will laugh at and what, your average person walking in off the street finds funny?
Yes. You have to genuinely catch a comedian off guard. Once you develop a skill of creating a premise and a punchline, you almost know where the punchline is going when you're watching a stand-up comedy thing, if it's predictable. So if you really throw them off, then you can catch them off guard and get them to laugh. But the regular audience member is not exactly going to see that trick. It's like a magician doing tricks for another magician, right?
Yeah.
I'm always amazed when I see people doing magic, but then a buddy of mine who's just a great magician, he's like, whatever.
Do you like, in terms of there's a skill set of premise, punchline, all that stuff, do you find you have to have a skill set with like hecklers? Does that become a thing or not really?
People assume that all the time. It's like, well, what do you do with hecklers? Well, I don't know what it's like in the mean streets of New York or whatever, but it's here in Canada, everyone's pretty polite. Yeah. So everybody wants to see you succeed. Nobody really wants you to fail on stage because then they feel awkward watching you. Yeah. Right? Totally. So there's the occasion on one of the late shows, maybe where someone's had too much to drink and they're not trying to railroad your show, but they're thinking they're contributing. And that's basically what a heckler is doing in their mind. Like they don't want you to fail, but they're trying to contribute to your show. But by contributing to your show, they're screwing up your rhythm.
Yeah, so exactly.
Every heckler out there has a good conscience.
Totally. Like they don't realize it's like you have like a whole routine you're doing. They think maybe, this guy says funny things. I say funny things. Exactly. We're going to be friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a good way to frame it. It's like, they're not against you. They're just confused. They've just lost their way.
Exactly.
Kind of make it funny.
Exactly.
But yeah, dude, it's funny. You're very multi-talented. You're going from music, you're going to stand up. I see you do a lot of stuff on, TikTok. We've even auditioned together. And I was going to say, I think one of your creative talents is framing, is the ability to look at things that are maybe negative, but you can spin it in a positive light. And I say that to say this. Could you talk about what happened September 21st, 2018? I think that is an amazing story.
it's that there's an example of something that'll catch you off guard. So a tornado hit my house in 2018, and we were just, we get the tornado warnings on the phone, but no one pays attention to those because tornadoes don't come to Ottawa. And so after the third one, I turned my phone off, like, forget this. And I'm sitting in the living room with my kids. All of a sudden, my neighbor's pool lands in the yard.
Holy shit.
Which is a pretty good indication that I should put on some pants. And then panic sets in. I grab my favorite kid, and we head down to the basement. The roof flies off. Kids' swing set disappears, but they don't care, because now they have a new pool. And that's finders keepers as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, so up until this point, a year prior, I started making sketches by myself, just kind of filming myself in the room, trying to find funny premises of things and filming myself doing stuff, trying to get comfortable in that world. And so I was conditioned to do that. And so the day after the tornado, when we came back and looked at all the damage and, the adrenaline was gone, well, we could go over to the neighbor's house and drink and cry with all them, or we could pick up a camera and just start trying to the positive situation out of a negative one. And so
awesome.
I just started going through the house like it's an episode of Cribs or something like that. Well, here's my new tree house, because now there's a tree in my bedroom. And anyway, it resonated with a lot of people, and it went viral as far as this community is concerned, and it caught the eye of the TEDx people. I mean, I would love you to come to Colorado and speak about your overcoming adversity using humor. And so that goes into another set of skills. Whereas if I hadn't done stand-up comedy for 6+ years before that, then I would have been prepared to give this hilarious take on a negative situation. I would have gone on stage and cried and drank, as opposed to putting a comedic spin on it. And so I that's why I value those skills in my arsenal, to be able to shed light on that kind of a situation.
Dude,
I don't think it would have worked out if I hadn't have, taken those steps prior to be prepared for something like that.
Yeah. And what you were saying, the skills of comedy that you got into, but I guess that isn't the beginning of how you started looking at things in a humorous way. Like, what's the genesis of that?
Comedy's definitely become a coping mechanism, and I only discovered that after the fact. So I'm trying to put a brave face on for the kids, and instead of I'll ask you a question. How do you react when you hear of a passing of someone else?
I find at first it takes a while for it to click in. It hasn't happened to me a lot, but when it has, if it's someone, the closer it is, the more of a shock it is, where you can't even let it in. If it's someone I know from far away, the sadness hits soon, but not as strong. But when it's someone really close, it's like, it's like a turn off thing, and it opens up much later for me.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way, but I feel like I find I use humor as this defense mechanism, and it's very inappropriate to use it in that sense. So I try to limit it as much as I can. My instinct is just to say something funny to break the tension, and it's basically a way I've learned to mask my vulnerability in any sort of situation I'm in. I'm not saying it's healthy. It's just kind of a coping mechanism that I've developed.
It's very human. Yeah, they have the people that want to joke as a defense mechanism. And also, do you ever, I've very rarely had this, but I have an uncle that does this. He can't help it. At funerals, he feels like he has to laugh so hard at funerals. And it's not that he doesn't like the person or that they died in a funny way. I think it's like you're saying, the way we deal with these anxieties and vulnerabilities, it comes out sometimes I think that's even a stranger way. I think
that's a total stranger way. That's
such
we don't go that far.
But it's like this giddy laughter. You're trying to hold back. It's like that, not me, him, but
honestly, and I'll bet you that giddy laughter, it probably gets some stern looks from people, but it also gets other people laughing in the in the room.
Well, I think he's mortified that he has it. He's like mortified. It's like some weird anxiety thing he has.
Yes.
It's like, what's the worst thing I could do in the situation right now? I'm like, I know. The guy's giving the eulogy. Like, I'm sorry. You got to get that out of your system, buddy.
Yeah. But going back to what you were saying earlier with like, what is it like to perform in front of other comics? It's basically, they're looking at their audience members, but looking at you in a judgmental form. And I look at other comics the same way. I've gone to funerals and I've heard people tell these eulogies, and I'm like, oh, he's bombing up there.
Yeah.
Like he's just the guy's best friend. You're like, I could do way better. I don't even know.
Yeah. I did a wedding speech. The same thing with weddings. I did my wedding speech, and then someone else did a wedding speech, and I was envious, man. I was like, oh, this is my chance to shine. When can I do a wedding speech or a eulogy or whatever? And you want to crush. I mean, yes, honor the event and the people, blah, blah, blah. But
you start doing crowd work. Who's from out of town?
Oh, man. But dude, yeah, people should definitely check out your TEDx talk, actually, because I think it's a good blending of what you do. Because I think you're so multi-talented and you're going in these different directions. It's like, you're trying to show a lot of different colors. So like your TEDx talk is funny, but it also brings through the inspiration, which I think resonates with a lot of your work. But do you ever feel like there's not one genre or one creative outlet that is really Rory? Like who is Rory the artist? Is he the comedian? Is he the musician? Is he the content creator on TikTok? Is he inspirational talks to kids? Like you're doing so much. And well, I'm just saying what is like the core of Rory?
Attention deficit disorder.
Yeah, I thought so.
It started out with music. My dad was a musician. Maybe I was trying to get his attention as a kid. Who knows? But that's where it started. And then it got to a point where I'd be doing theater shows. And in between the songs, I'd tell jokes and I really try to connect with the audience, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I don't even want to sing the songs anymore. I just want to talk to the audience. And so I had to get rid of the music somehow. So I figured stand-up comedy was a great direction to go in. So we started the comedy thing. And then somewhere along those lines, I had kids of my own, and I'm listening to kids music out there, like I'm sure you've heard it. It's a cliche. It's the worst. I'm like, I could do better than this. As we spoke before, I could do a better eulogy than that dead guy's husband, or what, you know. But so I started taking the musical side and creating what I thought was more popular or more appealing kids music. I find a lot of children's writers sing down to kids. It's like, la, 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 la. No. Just they would like good music too. Let's write some good music. So I have 3 children's albums now. So that's kind of where my musical journey took me over the last little while. And I can't wait for my kids to grow up because I need to start writing adult songs again. And as far as the combining the music and comedy, so I'm not the best comedian, I'm not the best musician, but what I've done is I've fused those two together. So now it makes me this skill stacked, unique entity, so that when it becomes like a go-to thing for anyone who wants that specific niche. It was smart to do that skill stacking.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is really key. I mean, Scott Adams from Dilbert was saying, what made him successful is similar to you, is figuring out what he's stronger at. He's not the funniest guy in the world, but he's probably he's like probably funnier than 75% of the people he's going to meet. And he can probably draw better than 75% of the people he's going to come across. And he has like a knowledge of business more than like 75% of the people out there. So connecting those is like the transformer power. It's like, boom, boom, boom. I have Dilbert cartoons. And I think you're similar. It sounds like, you have that hilarious, you have the funny side, you have the musical side, and taking the experience of having kids and having that enhance your creative life. Because one fear that I've had, I don't have kids, but I think about, as I'm getting older, if I get kids while I'm on this creative path, is that going to pull me away? And I would love to be a great dad and do all this stuff, but will that pull me away from my creative growth and journey and the ability to make a real strong career from it? And one thing I get motivated when I see you do it is I feel like you have kids, you have family, but it almost seems like it's maybe enhanced your creativity. It's enhanced your productivity. It's enhanced the content you're putting out. I could be wrong, but I'm just curious if did you notice a change when you became a dad in that regard?
Yeah, you basically roll with the punches. So you adjust accordingly. So I probably wouldn't have kids albums if I didn't have kids because I'd have no inspiration to draw from. A lot of it comes down to your partner. So if like I'll go out and do sets each night trying to work out on new material, and on weekends I'll be out late playing music gigs. If I didn't have a partner that supported that, chances are my career in creativity would be over, right? Or the marriage would be over. I'd have to choose. And so that's super important. I think it's the kids have nothing to do with it. It's the person that you have those kids with that needs to understand that that's a part of your life. It's who you are. And if they take that away from you, then well, that's not the person they married or impregnated or whatever. It's once they take away the acting guy and the humorous guy that makes Will, now they're married to this weird robot who just is a babysitter for the children they had together.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's really fun because my kids, the last like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my oldest one's like, I want to be a singer and a comedian. And they're like, do you know what a comedian is? He's like, no, but I just know I want to be that. And we'll do kids shows. So like we'll do like these brewery shows where we can go out and do these kids shows in breweries. Parents are there getting half lit and the kids are having a good time. But now my kids are able to enjoy what I do, and it's way more fun than playing to drunk bar people at 2 a.m. So I would give them that.
Dude, that's amazing, man. And during COVID, so you're doing shows during COVID. That's interesting. How's that all panning out?
I did a couple drive-in shows, which are kind of neat.
Was that for comedy or for music?
I did it for music, but a few colleagues of mine did it for comedy, and I can't imagine doing that. That would be like it's like flashing lights instead of laughing, which is so that
weird. Crowd honking so hard.
Yeah, like I can't even imagine trying to tell punchlines over top of honking horns. But it's been okay. And again, we can't leave our house. That's when I picked up this TikTok habit. And
what's your TikTok handle? Because I've seen a lot of it through Instagram. It's hilarious.
At Rory Gardiner Music. It's the same as the Instagram handle.
Cool.
And it's just one of those things where I decided, I think you have to make a habit of it. If you want to have any success on this thing, it's just like do it consistently, right? So I just decided I'm going to make one video a day, or at least one video a day, whether it's good or bad, and just hope for the best. And now I don't know when I started, a few months back, we're almost at 50,000 followers or something like that. So it's
crazy, dude.
It's fun. So now I'm trying to adopt that habit in everything else I do, kind of creating a daily practice as opposed to just doing it when I feel like it. It's kind of like the Seinfeld method of creating jokes instead of, waiting for inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's got a great interview with Tim Ferriss right now. He goes over his whole process, his whole like writing process and everything.
Oh, he's on Tim Ferriss's podcast?
Yeah, I think the most recent episode is him and Tim. That's dope, man. So you're saying do it as a daily habit and you release whether it's funny or not. And you have a lot of funny shit on there, but like, do you go through and curate old stuff? Do you cut out stuff? Do you trim the fat like a week later or a month later? Or do you leave it all as is? It all hangs out.
I definitely trim the fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
I did that with my TikTok. But I only have one video now. It's like legit. But I didn't get consistent. I did 2 videos, trimmed the first, and then now it's just one. It's so pathetic. I got to get on it.
No, it's part of me I don't know. Everyone's like, oh, you're too old to be on TikTok. Well, basically the way the algorithm works is it sends the videos out to people your age. Like there's no minors to see my videos. This is all people that relate to it, like other parents or whatever the content is. It drives it specifically to them, and it's I don't know. It's fun. It's gotten me through this pandemic creatively, I guess. And and now with this new Insta Reels thing that's come out, now repurposing it for the Reels, and you have an Instagram account. It's impossible to get new people following you on Instagram, but this Reels thing has the same algorithm as TikTok. And so it's going out to strangers. So for the first time in a while, I see other people commenting and liking on my stuff that you don't recognize.
Oh, that's actually a great tip. Yeah, I find building an audience on Instagram impossible. But yeah, one tip I did notice is anytime they introduce a new feature, just jump on that feature. If they introduce Reels, if they introduce IGTV, even when they first got stories, the more you use Instagram to its fullest, the more the algorithm will work. But it is like, damn, pulling teeth trying to get people to follow you on Instagram sometimes.
Because you were probably just as late as I was on Instagram. I was on the Facebook and Twitter thing forever, and then it took me a while for Instagram. But again, with TikTok, I wish I had done it a year prior when no one else was doing it.
People have been telling me, almost for a year now to get on it. I keep saying I will, and then I don't. I said this in another episode that's not out yet, but I noticed that people talk about, sometimes they say, oh, you're too old for this, you're too old for that. But in 2020, it's really like, what are you willing to do? That determines your age in a way. You know what I mean? Are you willing to learn the software, the technology to get into TikTok? Because then you can thrive and be in the community. Or are you old and you can't do it because you can't learn something? There's really like at certain points, especially as we get older, people are going to go left or right. You know what I mean? In terms of what they're willing to do.
Exactly. And you have to be willing to make those garbage TikToks to get to the goal. You're talking about Scott Adams earlier, right? Like he writes 99 half-assed, pretty good comics, but out of one awesome one, right? And he knows that. He knows how that process works. And so I do the same thing. And this one TikTok may have 2,000 views, and the next one, which I think is going to fail, gets 2.5 million views. So it depends on what happened, what the audience resonates with.
And and when you think about like feedback, like the feedback of a comedy audience or the feedback you get from like TikTok, it's so strange. Like you can literally, write the best song ever, the funniest joke ever, may get some good response, may not. But then, you can post a picture of an egg and the world is like, oh my God, that egg, I love this. Or like the picture of a burger. Oh my God, 100,000 million views. It's such a strange, but it's true. It's what people react to.
It was disheartening because again, like I was telling you earlier, when I was creating these sketches, these 3-minute, like great edited sketches. Like, I mean, I assume they were funny, but they were well shot, they were well edited, and it was all what I thought was good to go. And then it didn't turn out the way I wanted to. And then this TikTok thing shows up, 15-second videos. They're going crazy. I'm like, what the hell did I spend all that time? I don't know. And I don't chalk it up as a failure. I chalk it up as like, I was practicing for when someone wants to hire me for their movie. Now I have a few acting chops to go on. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Oh man. How's
TikTok built for you, dude? Like you have the personality where it's the app that is built for people like you. Instagram's not built for us. It's built for bikini people. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Or maybe that's what my homepage looks like.
No. It's that algorithm's like, this guy's a perv. Get him more bikini pics.
Exactly.
No, me too. I'm the same. I'm the exact same.
Exactly. But if you're a humorous guy and you got a personality, I think would be perfect for you.
Definitely, man. Well, I love to blend humor and music, or even improv and music. That's like a big thing for me. But I do find right now, like I'm a bit of a control freak. So even if I'm improvising, like I'll improvise on IG Live some music. And then if I were to make a video from that, I got to edit it and chop it and make it perfect. And I think I'm learning to let go of that. That's a skill, just being like, all right. Like I did a FB Live recently, a really short Facebook Live, trying to explain a musical concept. And it's like so shitty. But I practiced. I like hold up examples to the camera and it's all blurry. I mean, you see that? I assume you guys see that. And I just keep talking. But the point of that, me releasing it was, well, this is the first time that I'm willing to just be sloppy with the goal of eventually just being more proficient at being quicker, just putting something out quicker without having to edit and all this stuff. Now this interview, I probably will, edit and make snippets and this, that, and the other. Like there's something to be said for really like taking a piece of content and shaping it, molding it like clay. But in this world too, there's great to have like that fast food creativity. Don't think about it, throw it out there too, and instant. Like this is, Rory in his living room. Like you get direct feed into the person's life. Like that's dope. But with that, I don't know, I get maybe really in my head about it. Like I think I need to be perfect. One reason why I liked your quote about just letting it be, just get it out there, do it scared, do it messy, bring us along for the ride, is because that's something that I need to remind myself, like on the daily, to do and do more of.
Well, it's because we all have the insecurities, and I do as well, right? And just by releasing it, now you realize that even if you release something that's mediocre, it's not the end of the world. Like, no one's going to die from you releasing something that's not perfect. And if you wait those 10 years to release what you think is the perfect album, then you're going to end up like Chinese Democracy, like from Guns N' Roses. It's like the most anticipated album ever, which flopped, right? If he had created 3 albums along the way, he probably would have figured out what the audience wanted to hear and then created Chinese Democracy, which would have been completely different and probably epic.
Yeah. I'm a hip hop guy, so I think of Dr. Dre. I think he had his album Detox or something, like never came out. It took forever and it just never came out, similar to GNR. But both those examples are people that also had this like epic body of work before that they were so lauded.
Yeah.
And it seems like they, I wonder if that's what the pressure was. How do they top the last project? It almost seems impossible.
Exactly. So they're just trying to perfect it and this and that. But I think I heard a quote once. It was like, sometimes the only thing left to put on this piece of art is to sign your name at the bottom.
Yeah.
I guess it's finished. Just release it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Brother, thank you so much, man. And I hope to see you in real world scenarios soon. Maybe we'll work on a project together. That'd be dope.
That would be dope.
All right, I want to thank Rory Gardiner for coming through, and congrats to you on your #1 single with Natalie Jean, Not Over You. And if you want to hear more about what Rory is up to, including a link to his TEDx talk about that intense tornado story, head over to his website, rorygardiner.com. Or if you're in more of a laughing hyena type of mood, check out @RoryGardnerMusic on Insta or TikTok. All right, everybody, talk soon. See you next time. Mwah.